Alrighty. So welcome in everyone. This is Dungeon Runners. I am Kay Grovile. Joining me today is our lovely guest Pippy in a top hat. In an actual top hat today. Very good. And we are going to be talking about Zelda today. Talking about speedrunning. Talking about the games that you run. Yeah. Hi, Pippi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Talking about Zelda sounds fun to me. Uh, it's what I
Epic.
do with a decent portion of my time.
Very good. Um, so yeah, tell us about you as a speedrunner for those who don't know you. How long have you been speedrunning and what events led to you discovering speedrunning?
So I will perpetually feel like a noob in speedrunning. I There are just some people who've been around for 14, 15 plus years, and I will always feel like a noob. So I want to say oh yeah, I'm a really new speedrunner, but I've been around for 3 or so years as a runner now, I think. Something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, but I was actually a speedrun viewer for a lot longer than that. Um, I started watching speedruns. I started watching GDQ in I want to say 2015, 2016, about 10 years ago now. When I was a teenager. I was originally I was a teenager playing Minecraft, like
Yep,
all of them do.
as we do.
Uh, how many stories start this way? But I was like the kid in the friend group who made your working Minecraft toilet and
Mm,
made the working Minecraft shower and the door that triggers automatically. I did all of the redstone stuff. I got really into watching people's redstone invention type of videos online. And it really was kind of how I got into coding a lot more legitimately, was that it's a really great way to sort of make coding feel much more tangible and approachable.
mm-hmm.
And through that, I wound up watching a lot of stuff by the content creator Seth Bling,
Oh yeah.
um, who at one point he started streaming his Minecraft builds. He would make these massive redstone projects that did all of these really complicated things, and he would stream doing the build, and then he put up the world for download, and I would watch his streams and then download the world at the end and then
Mm-hmm.
try to reprogram his redstone to do other stuff. And I did this for basically for about as long as he had done that. And then he just started one day being like, "Yeah, I've been really into watching Super Mario World speedruns. I figured I'd try it out. Yeah, it seems fun, right?" And I
Mm-hmm.
had never heard of it before. Never played Super Mario World. I didn't have video games that young. My first video games were mostly GameCube. I was a complete stranger to the game, complete stranger to the run, had no idea what was happening, and I was like, wait, but this is fun. But I love this. And I wound up, he did commentary for GDQ at one point, and I wound up getting into watching GDQ through that, and I watched it for, I want to say, 7 or 8 years, something like that. Just I would, you know, come back and tune in for next GDQ
Mm-hmm.
for a long, long time until I finally decided to try to learn to speedrun myself after years of going, nah, I can't do that. Um, Mostly because I had always been very attached to Zelda runs. I'd always been very attached to Zelda runs. And I was supposed to get dental surgery
Mm.
in the summer of 2021, and I was such an anxious mess because I'd never been in for surgery before. I'd never been put under, that I was borderline unfunctional and just did a million comfort watches. And my comfort watch of choice was every GDQ Wind Waker run. Every
Mm-hmm.
single one. All of them. Hotfix, that counts. GDQX, oh, that definitely counts. Like, I just watched a ton of them, and then I got to the point where I was like, and there's no more Wind Waker. But Link's eyebrows make me feel better. Um, and so I wound up like looking up the runners, and from there I got involved much more in specifically Gymnast 86's community. Like, and I would lurk in a bunch of his streams and like occasionally chat. And that was kind of the first time speedrunning was made approachable to me. That I was like, no, you can just do this. And you don't have to be perfect, and you can just pick up a controller and do it. And that's what I did. I so I by the end of like the summer of 2021, I was speedrunning tiny indie game, a couple of them, and learning Zelda in the background for like 6 months until I learned Skyward Sword, and I've kind of just found my little niche from there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think can definitely relate to that. Seeing Wind Waker GDQ runs, and yeah, I've hung out with Gymnast a bit. Shout outs to Gymnast if anyone hasn't seen that interview. If you want to learn more
Yeah.
about him. Great. You mentioned Skyward Sword just now. So was that kind of your first main? You talked about Wind Waker before. Did you try really learning Wind Waker at all, or did you just kind of go into Skyward Sword because you thought it was better, or how did that go?
So, like, if I'm gonna rank my favorite Zelda games, Wind Waker lives at the top. I love Wind Waker. It's adorable. Casually, it's my favorite experience. Again, Link has excellent eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
Like the art style's great. I really like the mixture between like they have a really like engineered experience for the casual player, but it still feels very open and expansive. And that being said, I think Skyward Sword's a better speedrun. Um, and like I love watching Wind Waker runs, and I would like to learn it at some point. I don't know, like probably much more HD than SD, but like both of them have really interesting tricks. I'd love to learn both of them at some point. Um, like I would love to venture out into that, but for me personally, again, I was the kid playing with Redstone while everybody else was killing zombies. I'm just such a little like comp sci brain. I love like the first time I saw Back in Time, I was enamored. It's like
Yeah.
I need to understand all of this right now. That's amazing because we're essentially writing code from the title screen in a very, very limited capacity to move things around between files, between your active gameplay, and like it's really tactile. It's like all the things that I liked about Redstone back in the day. With in addition, like a whole speed run around it. And like that was what like Skyward Sword had that called out to me, was that like, no, I want to be in this weird world.
For sure. Yeah, and for those watching at home, if you don't know what we're talking about with Back in Time, there's a very broken glitch in Skyward Sword. We won't go into too much detail here. If you want to look
Oh,
it up,
I could though.
if you guys want to look it up, Back in Time, or Bit for short, lots of people have really good videos explaining what that is. You're essentially playing the game on the title screen, and it makes Skyward Sword runs what they are, pretty much. So yeah, so you played some bit of Skyward Sword, obviously, and tell us about what you've been running a little more recently.
So for the past like 8 months or so, 9 months, my goodness, where's time go? I've been running Phantom Hourglass, and I've I had to introduce myself at GDQ as being a commentator, and I was like, well, I guess I run the Zelda games with controversial control schemes. I'm not going to promise to continue to do that, but that's what I'm doing right now because my two Zelda forays have been Skyward Sword and Phantom Hourglass. Um, Phantom Hourglass, a very, very different speedrun. It's not nearly as broken in half with the code hanging out. But it's very like it's still very charming. It's got a lot of the sort of like playful art style stuff that Wind Waker has, and it has so many like I'm very openly and proudly a lover of like video games that leaned into a gimmick because I feel like, you know, in leaning into motion controls, Skyward Sword really explores all the ways that they could interact with motion controls to the fullest extent
Mhm.
that they could. And some of those aren't going to be winners. Nobody liked playing the harp. I'm very sorry. Um, nobody liked playing the harp. Not everyone thing is going to be a winner, but you're going to see a very large variety of exploration of this single tool put in like every different direction. And I do think that like Phantom Hourglass kind of does a similar thing, that it was like a very early DS title. It has so many things that make you play with the microphone and make you play with the stylus and like let's draw a little picture, and like I think that in terms of like gameplay and puzzle design, it's like one of the best in terms of just solid puzzle design throughout the game, and they really find everything that they can make you do with a microphone and a stylus.
Yeah.
Um, which, in terms of a speedrun, is also very fun because, like, I'll say it's the only time I've ever had transferable skills from outside of speedrunning that. I went to art school for 2 years. I'm like, I got a bamboo tablet. I know how to draw a Triforce in one line. Sure.
Yeah, I mean that's what you train for. Obviously, you go to art
Yeah.
school to train for Phantom Hourglass speedruns. Um, Going off script a little bit here. A lot of people kind of see Phantom Hourglass as like one of the much lower tier Zelda games in the series due to some of the controversy. And a lot of those same people will also argue that Spirit Tracks kind of fixed a lot of its issues and was basically the better version of like, oh, if you want to play a game on the DS, just play Spirit Tracks. And wondering if you had anything to add to that argument, because I kind of hear that argument thrown around a lot. If anyone wants to play a game on the DS, it'd be like, just play Spirit Tracks instead.
I mean, so like the very shallow answer of why like I have nostalgia for Phantom Hourglass. I don't have nostalgia for Spirit Tracks. I never owned it. I never played it as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But the very shallow answer for that is that I didn't really like trains. Shrug. I just
That's
was
also
like, they
fair.
made a Zelda game that's about trains. Really? What's next? Link drives a bus. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of a little bit too campy for me as a kid. Um, but I feel like now I'm much more. I'd be all for a Zelda game where Link drives a bus. Some might argue that could be Tears of the Kingdom. But I think in terms of a speed run specifically, like I do think that Phantom Hourglass has a lot of its own unique charms. I think a lot of its puzzles are really unique. And like I would say for both Phantom Hourglass and Skyward Sword, and for really any game that has like takes a lot of risk, um, like you kind of have to learn to love it for its quirks instead of in spite of them. Um, but like you also kind of have to like see the things that are good in them and not focus too much on like fighting against the controls. Working with the controls goes miles further than fighting against them and trying to make them something that you don't like that they aren't naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And like if people enjoy the controls for Spirit Tracks more than Phantom Hourglass, like have fun, man. Like that's totally fine by me. Like you don't have to love everything I love. But like from a speedrun perspective specifically, I also would say that like Spirit Tracks is a much more volatile speedrun
Okay.
and is also longer,
Mm,
which is a really dangerous concoction, you know, that like you have a frame perfect trick that you have one try on 2 hours into a 4 hour run. Like it's a lot of that type of thing. And Phantom Hourglass has like a little bit of its like frame perfect quirkiness, but um as like a person who does like finishing runs, I don't like resetting. I'll do it. I don't
yeah.
like it. I really don't like to sort of, you know, really make everything ride or die on get this one trick. Like that's just a little too much pressure and stress for me. I prefer to be a little bit more chill. So like originally one of the other like runners who has run mostly Spirit Tracks, has like dabbled in Phantom Hourglass a little bit. I don't know if he's done full runs. Was trying to get me to run Spirit Tracks and was like, yeah, like Phantom Hourglass has a cool speedrun too, but Spirit Tracks, and I was like, no, rewind, sorry. So I'm very sorry to Jasnix that I did not start
Oh,
running
good old
Spirit
Jasmix.
Tracks. But I think that Phantom Hourglass does have a lot of its own charms.
That's fair. Both are very small speedrun communities for sure.
Oh yeah.
I've seen Jazzix around. He's trying to get people to run Spirit Tracks. I
Yeah.
would if I had the technology. That's the issue with those two games as well. If you don't have a Wii U or if you don't have a
Yeah.
3DS capture card, like it's most of the other Zelda games are now accessible on the Switch in some form or another. So,
Yeah. Link
um,
Between Worlds is the other one that like
yeah,
I'm so sorry if you're trying to get more Link Between Worlds runners.
yeah,
You need a 3DS capture board for that. I suppose like the 3D remakes of the N64 games, but like if you want to run Ocarina of Time, there
yeah.
are other ways to run Ocarina of Time, but even if they're not the exact same run. But yeah,
Hmm.
Link Between Worlds is like so married to its console.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very happy because I don't have a DS capture board of any respect. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm very happy that Phantom Hourglass is optimal on the Wii U. So I'm
Hmm.
not losing time. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Link Between Worlds and the two people that run Triforce Heroes in the world. Um,
Shout
uh,
outs to them.
yeah. Whoever you are, let us know. We'd love to interview you. If you exist, I don't know if you exist though, unfortunately. Yeah. If you don't like reset heavy runs, don't run Twilight Princess. Just don't do it.
Oh,
Um,
I look at it all the time. I know way too much about Twilight Princess speedruns, but I'm like, oh,
don't do it.
I
uh,
have the energy for this.
it's a lot. Um, and on that note, so between those seem to be kind of your two main games. I don't know if you've done a ton of different categories in Skyward Sword, but do you have a favorite speedrun category so far between that or Phantom Hourglass or anything else?
So
Um,
I've dabbled in a couple of things in Skyward Sword specifically. Like honorable mention to Pacifist. As we're
mm,
recording this, like 2 days ago, somebody absolutely destroyed the Pacifist world record. If you want to see an absolutely broken run, Pacifist is incredible. We don't stop demise. Um, but uh, my personal favorite, regardless of game, my favorite run to watch to perform, is Skyward Sword any percent. Specifically the current route. Because I have no leaderboard times with any of the previous routes, but I did learn one of the previous routes. It just was before I was doing full runs. The entire entire route got thrown out because we found a new trick. But I do think that like the current Skyward Sword 90% route is like so fun because it's an hour and like the world record's an hour and 7 minutes. My like estimate if I'm doing it for a showcase is 125, but I do not need a 125.
Mm-hmm.
We just set safe estimates, but like it's like between that range of just go go go, just breakneck pace. Like you're constantly both doing things and setting up to do future things by the nature of playing on the title screen. You're often doing like two things at once in terms of like, yeah, I'm operating a menu and I'm also playing the video game. We don't get to stop doing that just because we have a menu in our face. Just play the video game, even though you can only see Link's ankles. Um, but it's a very breakneck pace. A lot of the tricks are very fun. A lot of people do think that like Skyward Sword in general speedrunning is kind of is the end all be all. You're always on the title screen, and like to be fair, we spend about 30% of the run on the title screen,
Mm-hmm.
but the 60% of the run we don't spend on the title screen is actually really varied. It's got a lot of really interesting and unique tricks and just things you're not gonna see otherwise. You know, and like I really love that kind. It's kind of punishing past a certain level of like every trick can kill your run a little bit, but it's such a like satisfying trick gauntlet. And like I put it down for a while, and I'd go run other things, go run other categories, other games, like learn other things. And then every time I've picked it up after a break, just like my first response is, "Wait, this is so fun! Like I'm having a great time. Why did I stop doing this?" And like I get to re-experience the joy all over again, which is really great in my opinion.
For sure. Yeah, and you're talking about like all the different routes of any percent for Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword used to be a very, very long speed game. I remember it was monumental when Gymnast got the first sub 5 hours, and that was like any percent. That was the fastest run, and people were freaking out that he got barely a 4:59. And then there was a new trick that he found, which we talked about in our Gymnast interview. And within the time that trick was found, those few months, the route for Skyward Sword changed like every couple days, every week. They were doing completely different things. We were playing in different areas of the world on the title screen. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely something to look into. But it seems like they've kind of it's the dust has kind of finally settled on what
Yeah, a
what
little
seems to
bit.
be the good route.
It's still a thing that kind of stays with the community though, which I do find very funny. That like every time Skyward Sword gets into any event,
Mm-hmm.
the community's first response is, "Quick, somebody change the route," um, because I don't remember which GDQ it was. It was one of the GDQ Skyward Sword any percent runs that Jim has done, where the morning of his run,
Oh no.
uh,
Yeah.
Pepperonicus, one of our community like pillars of routing and ridiculous speedrun science, was like, "Hey, so I have an idea." And I believe he did the run having never done a full run through on that route before. And the route was very similar to the route that came before it, just like swapped a couple things around.
Mm-hmm.
But like that sort of the like really like, wait, no, we fixed it type of attitude still it exists in the community as like a sort of community joke.
Yeah. And then Skyward Sword HD came out. um. All right. So moving on to, I know we already obviously talked a decent amount about Gymnast as one of your influences for speedrunning. Is anybody else notable that you want to mention? People that you watched? Anyone specific that you may have talked to, kind of mentored you? I know you mentioned Jaznix a bit. Um, anyone in particular you want to talk about?
I mean, I feel like I'm in the very lucky position at this point that like a lot of the people who have influenced me most as a speedrunner and as a performer and like you know as a runner it like for showcases on my own stream anywhere are people who are some of my closest friends in the world.
Hmm.
I feel very lucky that like I can sing their praises all day and like I'm sure that like everybody my friends have like affected my course in life it, like just permanently. But I would say that as a runner my biggest influences are as we said gymnast is an incredibly like you know chill dude and skilled speedrunner and like I think one of the things that brought me into speedrunning is just he has the most chill and like relaxed mindset about runs and like it treats it like very realistically and like I think that really helps preserve the fun and in not getting yourself too bogged down. And the other one would definitely be Glubbers, just he's got a couple usernames.
Yeah.
But he's a Twilight Princess, Echoes of Wisdom, a couple other variety games. He's gonna be doing a Breath of the Wild run for GDQX soon. Runner and like I think he really like gave me the push I needed a couple of times now in terms of just like you can theorize and talk about mindsets and stuff all day or you can you know
Do something
sit
about it.
down and tackle a problem
Yeah.
like just very down to earth very realistic dude
Hmm.
like I have definitely like been like okay how can I make this better? And he will hold no punches in terms of like, giving very like constructive criticism always, which is I think a really like valuable skill and is like a really skilled speedrunner and performer as well. Um, it in terms of like other speedrun influences, thanks Seth Bling. I have not really met this individual, but thanks for accidentally bringing me here.
Seth Bling, if you're watching, we'll, interview you someday.
Bring
um,
Seth Bling to Zelda.
yeah. If you start running, we can. Uh, awesome. Um, yeah, it's funny what you said about gymnasts being super chill all the time. I remember somebody made a meme once. It's like Jim when a run dies and Jim when he gets world record, and it's just like the same expression. He's just completely, yeah,
Yeah, he's just a
he
happy dog.
does not get super upset, which I think a lot of us
Yeah.
aspire to do because yeah, I definitely feel that with myself too, getting overly upset sometimes at runs or yeah. Um, but yeah, so going into Zelda as a series specifically, I know you've talked a little bit about you really liked watching Zelda runs at GDQ. Is there anything specific about the Zelda series that really keeps you speedrunning this? And have you ever dabbled with speedrunning any other games? I know you mentioned some Mario games earlier. I don't know if you really ever got into that, but yeah, tell us about that.
I've never speed run despite Mario World being how I got into watching speedruns. I've never speed run a Mario game. They sound terrifying. Um, they're so schmovement, and you know what? My
Oh yeah,
weakest area is schmovement.
movement.
Um, but I did. I think that the first run I really wanted to learn was Skyward Sword, but I was very scared to like just be in a speedrun community. It's scary. It's like scary as an outsider, and I definitely still feel that even though I've been around for a couple of years now. And so the first speed run I ever learned was I a tiny indie game called Signs of the Sojourner. There were zero existing runs of it,
Mm.
zero documentation, no route, nothing. It was a adorable, like, kind of card game that really flew under the radar because people were distracted by something else in 2020. Um,
Yep.
and so I kind of got to have the experience of like I built every route from scratch. I got to set the category restrictions. I got to really like my first experience speedrunning was sitting in front of my computer with a paper and pencil notebook, just taking physical notes on everything in terms of like trying to sort through routes and trying to minimize RNG and trying to find ways to speed things up or make things more consistent. Um, so I think I really like that was a really valuable experience, but really like it wasn't the corner of speedrunning I wanted to be in. Um and I think like going into Zelda games, the thing that I really like love most about Zelda games, other than the fact that like I was a Nintendo kid my whole life. I love like I loved Zelda. It's very nostalgic. It's very like diverse. I love Zelda games. I think one of the things that Zelda games really have going is just how much effort and passion have been put into them. That these are really, really well made games. Like, you look at a Skyward Sword run or a Wind Waker run and you go, man, how does this function? How is this is a pile of noodles. Um, but it it's actually really well made. Like, people find these very, very tiny cracks and just like find a way to rip them open. Um, and I think that like that degree of community passion and precision and like just creativity is really like what I love about speedrunning, and like is what I love about Zelda games is you never know what you're gonna get, but it's gonna be weird and it's gonna require a lot of creative problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So like that's what I loved as a viewer and that's what I love as a runner.
Fair enough. um, so yeah, I know you mentioned Wind Waker a little bit earlier, but yeah, is do you have a favorite game that you don't speed run or never want to speed run? Maybe some people won't run a game because they don't want to like ruin it for themselves or something. Um, I don't know if you've had that experience with any games where you just don't want to run it because you want to keep that casual experience intact or for any other reason.
I don't I'm really bad at picking a favorite video game. I love a lot of video games for really different reasons. Like there's probably like a decent number of my like top games or games that I wouldn't run just because they're not the type of run that I feel like I would enjoy. Um like I love Hat in Time, and I swear it's not biased in any way. It's not because of an obsession with Top Hat.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not. But like it's runs I enjoy watching. It's not really runs I feel like I would personally enjoy. Um, like similarly I think there's like a decent number of games that I would not speedrun just because I feel like the joy of it is in puzzle solving, and you kind of lose that in a speed run when you know the solution to the puzzle.
Hmm.
Things like Outer Wilds, like Fez, are some of my personal favorite games at like my personal just favorite experiences. If you haven't played Outer Wilds or Fez, please do. They're very good.
You were the
Um,
third person I've interviewed who's said play Outer Wilds.
there's definitely not a black market of 3D Zelda runners specifically who want to watch other people experience Outer Wilds for the first time. That's totally not a real thing and definitely not a thing that we're all involved with. Don't worry. Um
Hmm.
but it's a very good game and I really really enjoyed it casually, but you know, launching yourself into space without a spacesuit and trying to narrowly avoid the sun is wildly entertaining, but is not nearly the same thing as what the gameplay is
Hmm.
casually, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I definitely see there are a lot of games that when you look at the speedrun and you look at the casual experience, it's like this is not the same game at all, and that's okay. You can like these two different games for different reasons, especially games that are like story and cutscene heavy. Like, like one of my favorites is Xenoblade, and the reason I like that is because of all the cutscenes and the story, and then the speedrun is like completely different things. So
yeah.
I
What if we tried to watch as few of those cutscenes as we can?
what if we skip the best part of the game?
Yeah.
Um, and and there's some people who will say that about Zelda as well. Like my fiance says, "Oh, I would never run Skyward Sword because I like all the cutscenes. I don't want to ruin it for myself." So, um, but yeah, what I'm learning from all these interviews is I need to play Outer Wilds apparently. So
You do.
it's in the backlog. I have it. I'll get there eventually.
You do, and you need to apparently hit up all the people you've interviewed and let us watch.
Apparently, we'll get there eventually after I'm done running the same game 100 times over. Um,
That's the speedrunner mood right there.
yep. Okay, so getting into some of your practice habits, I guess. Uh, some runners with really good times will pretty much practice. Obviously, like gymnast is like a full time runner. He probably has like a crazy routine like other people going to the gym where he practices his tricks ahead of time. I don't know if you have a routine like that or if you just kind of do runs over and over and try to get them, or maybe you have like some save states at specific tricks that you want to practice before a run. But yeah, tell us about how you practice, how you approach these games and get better.
I wouldn't say I have the most like sort of strict or regular regimen. There are a couple of tricks that I do feel like I kind of need to stay in practice with that like if I'm running Phantom Hourglass, if anybody is unaware, there is this excellent wild trick in the middle of a Phantom Hourglass run called Warp Displacement.
Hmm.
Um, if you would like to see it, it was at the most recent GDQ. It was at SGDQ 2025. That is a frame perfect input on entering an invisible radius, which sounds awful because it is. Like, it's stupidly precise, and it's just kind of something you get the feel for. And I find, like, certain little things like that, I do feel I need to be in practice for. So if I'm
Hmm.
doing Phantom Hourglass runs, I will take something very small like that, and I'll just have, like, a save state, a file that I have set up, and I'll practice like give it it's time for my daily warp displacement type of thing, maybe every couple of days, so like once every other day we'll do it for like 10 minutes type of thing,
Hmm.
to really like keep myself in practice. But for the vast majority of things, I feel like I kind of like practice a trick if I feel like I need it, you know? I and I like to make a joke that I'm bad at learning speedruns and I learn them wrong. Um, but in actuality, I don't think there's a wrong way to learn. But
Mm.
that when most people ask, like, how do you learn a speed run, the advice you're going to get is to just, like, finish a run and then go through if you feel like you need it, make save states, use practice tools, whatever. I am the type of person that will drill sections of a run into the ground, and usually those sections of the run start at the beginning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like for some longer runs, I'll maybe like break it in half. It's like today we're practicing the first half of Phantom Hourglass any percent, but I really don't practice a lot of things in very small chunks. Um, it's not often like that I just you know do like this trick out of context out of aside of those like little things that I feel like I need to be in practice for. It's just kind of like I feel like I get personal value out of things being in the context of a run.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I want to practice it, I might as well do runs, you know?
Yeah.
I might as well practice the entire dungeon. I might as well practice this entire half of the run, you know? Um, oh, well, I don't have a save file in that location, so I might as well do all the run up till that point, and then maybe I'll do that dungeon a couple times. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we'll start at the beginning, like, to get our ducks in a row. Um, which isn't optimal for learning, I don't think, but, like, it's kind of how my brain likes to do it, and, you know, everybody's gonna have their own unique quirks and differences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm a little bit all over the place, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like you said, there's no wrong or right way of doing it. Like some people will kind of just watch a lot of videos and they can pick it up just from that. Some people will grind one trick like 1,000 times before they actually do a run. Um, like it's really what works for you, and yeah, whatever gets you to the finish line with a good time, that's what counts. Um, but yeah, speaking of getting through runs and actually finishing runs, like you were saying earlier, you don't really like to reset very much. However, with a longer run, I mean, I know Phantom Hourglass isn't as long as some crazy runs, but it is a lot longer than say Skyward Sword, or a lot of really quick any percent runs for other games, being over 3 hours. So if you're getting into like the second half of a run, getting into the late game, and you see red on the splits behind, how do you kind of approach that mentally and be like, I'm still going to finish this run even though I'm behind? I'm still going to try and play well even if this doesn't PB. Like, how do you kind of approach that mentally?
I think like one of the great things about speedrunning and streaming runs is that like if there's any part of me that wanted to be sad that this was a pretty good run and now we're an hour and a half in and we're 40 seconds behind. Where did all that good time save go? My chat really won't let me. I'm very grateful that like I feel like my very vocal attitude when it comes to a lot of speedrunning, especially when you're talking about like showcases and stuff, but I think that it still holds true for just like doing runs for yourself. Um, is that the first words out of my mouth if something goes wrong are usually, that's okay. And then I have a hot second to figure out how I can make that true. You know? Um, and that doesn't mean that the run has to be okay. The run can be irreparable. That's fine. That's okay. But like I have to be okay with that. You know? There are definitely streamers out there who get incredibly high audiences off of just being fun to watch them get mad. And you know what? That's not really good for you. Um, like in most cases, that's kind of not good for your mental health.
Mm.
And I find that for a lot of speedrunners, um, the thing that people want to watch is like people having fun. People having fun and doing cool stuff like it's nothing. You know? And so, you know, the run can be dead, and that's fine. And that's okay. Um, you know what? Like, we got some really good splits this run. You know, look back at previous things that went okay, and like, oh, we got a best on a really hard segment. That's really cool. Like, you know, oh well, we're an hour and a half into the run, so I might as well finish it anyway, and that's okay because I wanted to practice the end anyway. Like, now I'm gonna have good practice for the final boss gauntlet when I am on a good pace, you know. And I think one of the nice things about Twitch is I really feel like you kind of draw to you at some points the audience that shares that mindset to some degree, that shares your mindset. And so, like, you know, my active chatters, like, yeah, some people are gonna pay spell, some people are gonna stop watching because the splits are red, but a lot of my active chatters will see that, like, I just lost 40 seconds and go, we finished bad runs here. And I'm like, you know it. We do. Let's go finish a bad run. This is fine. Um like, I think an excellent example is just this past week. I PB'd by over a minute in Phantom Hourglass. And that run was over a minute behind at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? The first thing out of my mouth was, I may have died to bad RNG, and that might have been bad, and that might have lost me like 40 seconds right there. But you know what? We lost a solid minute in the late game on my current PB. So this runs on life support, but it's certainly not dead, and we're not giving up on it. At the very least, it's going to be practice. And saved a minute in the late game, saved another minute in the late game, you know? Like, you really never know what's gonna happen, especially with those longer runs where it really is just, it's a marathon, not a sprint, you know?
Mm-hmm. Glass half full.
So, yeah,
attitude,
I tried to
basically.
stay positive.
Yeah. And then you got free time save for next time.
Exactly.
There you go.
All I have to do is not get the world's most abysmal RNG next time. That's a free
go.
40 seconds.
Every time.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, I think we kind of covered two questions in one there. But yeah, have you found, is there any specific aspect of speedrunning that you have found most challenging for you, whether it's the tricks or the length of the run or the pressure of being watched or anything else you can think of, any specific aspect of streaming that you find challenging?
I think the thing that I'm the worst at is really, like, getting over the fact that if you start a new run, you're gonna be bad at it. You know? Like, I had been running Skyward Sword for a decently long time in terms of doing one run, right? I did Skyward Sword any percent. Oh, well, we did 90%. Let's do all dungeons. I learned randomizer. And like, all of that is in this like walled garden that is Skyward Sword. And then I was like, okay, but what now? Mm-hmm. I'm not about to pick up Hundo. It's a 7+ hour run. I'm not really super interested in like sort of exploring other categories in Skyward Sword at this exact moment. And I do think like this is advice I give, but not advice I follow very well. I'm very bad at it. that the correct time to put down a project for a while and come back to it later is 2 days before you've started feeling burned out.
Mm.
Is that like that's how you put things down and you pick them up in 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, and go, wait, I love this, instead of going, oh, not this again. I never want to put myself in that degree of burnout.
Mm.
And like every time I'm like, okay, I should probably start looking for what's the next project, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to be bad at something. No, everybody's gonna make fun of me because I'm bad. Um, and like, I just have to get over it. You just gotta get over it. You just gotta put the time in anyway and be okay with being bad at things. And
Mm.
that is like probably the thing I need to work on the most. That like, okay, once I'm happy with Phantom Hourglass, where am I going next? And it like, is that staying in Phantom Hourglass? Are we learning Hundo, or are we moving on to something else? And if I'm moving on to something else, I do just have to be bad at it for a while, and like have to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is scary, but
Yeah.
it's important, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you say about that, because I don't think that advice, I don't think that advice only applies to speedrunning. I think
Oh,
I
definitely,
think
yeah.
that with everything in life, people are generally scared to do something that you're not good at. Like I know people, they're like, "Oh, I don't cook ever because I'm not good at it. I don't want to be bad at it. I don't want people to like." But the only way that you're gonna get better is just by taking the plunge and doing it. So, um, yeah, speedrunning, metaphor for life.
Speedrunning is life. Did you
Speedrunning
know?
is life. Awesome. So yeah, going into the streaming community. So a lot of speedrunners have a bit of a smaller community and aren't used to performing for like a huge large audience. But especially at GDQ, and then with as your channel has grown over the years, you consistently get quite a lot of people watching. And how has your approach to streaming and interacting with chat kind of changed over the years as you've had that bigger audience?
um, it's funny because I feel like simultaneously I've gone through a lot of changes and also I haven't. Um, because so as I said, I started streaming speedruns at the end of 2021. By summer of 2022, I oopsed my way into being a GDQ host.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so suddenly I went from like pretty quickly in the world of Twitch, where the average viewership for any stream is like 5 people. I went from having no audience to having a larger audience than was expected of my skill level, to some degree. And like that is a weird situation to be in. Um, but I think it kind of like it has sort of changed my ways of interacting with people, but I think in a lot of positive ways, not really in the sort of like, you know, putting up a front or like putting on a content creator face type of
Mm-hmm.
thing, as much as just like knowing how to handle more unexpected situations, knowing how to keep myself comfortable even if however many people are watching me. And I think one of the lessons that I learned really, really quickly on Twitch is I don't know how many people are watching me at any given time. It's like out of the can advice I'd give to anybody who's gonna start streaming, no matter what you're starting to stream, just hide that number.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in the moment, it's the same if 5 people are watching me, if 50 people are watching me, if the 500 people are watching me, it doesn't matter. You just kind of roll with the punches and like have fun and try to keep a positive space regardless. And so I don't know as much that like I've changed my approach as much as I've gotten better at it.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten better at handling that sort of situation. And like I think I've learned a lot about like the little things that go along with that, like moderation and stuff like that along the way. But like I prefer everything, if it can be, to be handled instead of with the mod hammer, with just like a gentle discussion. And I think that if you keep a good attitude, you can have like a lot of really meaningful discussions with people on Twitch. You can set really whatever tone you want, and like if anything, my Twitch community was a very small group of people who wanted to experience this vibe, and is now a slightly larger group of people who want to experience this vibe. And as I said, like I'm routinely really like cheered on by the fact that like if I am tempted to be like get a little bit too wrapped up in like, man, I really liked that run, can't believe it died, or something like that, like after a certain point, like my community, like it came here because they liked my values in speedrunning, and they will give me kind of the advice I would want to hear at times, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a really positive feedback loop in terms of keeping things light and chill and fun, um, and working towards having a healthy community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then as you get more people in chat too, you're gonna get, more trolls and more, people saying this and that sometimes. And I guess just remembering that that's their problem and not your
Yeah.
problem, because you're not gonna please everybody no matter how hard you try.
Yeah,
Um,
I think in terms of like moderation and trolls and stuff like that, like I I think there's such a superpower that everybody has in terms of choosing what to give energy to. That
mm-hmm.
like if somebody comes into my chat and says something that's just not the vibe, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
goodbye, it's gone now.
Yeah.
It's no longer at the bottom of my chat screen. And like if you say it a couple more times, like maybe we'll have to talk about it. But so many people who are just coming to make trouble, like or just coming to defy the vibe that the community has agreed is what they want, the second that everybody ignores that, it's a vast internet. Go find somewhere where that energy is welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And like you don't even have to tell them to leave. That they know. They know.
For sure. Yeah. Fair enough. Um, all right, going into your speedrun career here, do you have a singular run that you feel most proud of? That could be a current PB, or it could be just a run that you felt was really good at a time at the time. Maybe it was a different route and it changed, or I don't know. What was a run you felt very proud of?
I feel like my very unsurprising answer would be actually two answers in very different ways. That I'm very proud of my current Skyward Sword any percent PB, despite the fact that it has 40 seconds of time loss in the last 5 minutes of the run.
Hmm.
Um, just the rest of it is really, really solid. Um, if and when I go back to Skyward Sword any percent, like I'll learn some safety strats for the end of the run. But one of the things that's really, really challenging about Skyward Sword in particular is the fact that if you get nervous, and if you can't tell, I'm a person riddled with anxiety. If you get nervous, what's the first thing that's gonna happen when you are told to hold this very, very still? Everything's shaking.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's shaking, and there are some really, really hard tricks in the very end of Skyward Sword Any% that really punish you for handshake. And like, despite the fact that I lost that much time to the end of the run, I just feel proud that the rest of the run was that good.
Mm-hmm.
That like it really feels like I gave it my all in every section. And like, oh, handshake cost me a couple seconds. Say la vie. You know what? That's time saved for next time. Um, and I feel really like good about it, that whole run, and feel like it's really been a thing that feels kind of like, look how far we've come to me. Um, the other one that I feel most proud of is also Skyward Sword Any%, and it is my Fatales showcase. That I do think that like a maybe a controversial take among speedrunners. I do think that there is more to a speedrun showcase, or to like GDQ, any other type of event like that, than just how fast you go.
Absolutely.
Um, I think that like being a performer isn't everything, but it also isn't nothing. That like I would much rather see somebody get a a time that's 5 minutes off of world record, and be a like really great advocate for all of the things that are fun in the run, and do a really good job of explaining everything, then
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a person silently get the world record and not engage and not explain things in ways that are approachable, And I feel like, you know, I had I had never submitted Skyward Sword to Fatales before. It's by far the biggest stage I've gotten to perform on for Skyward Sword, and I kind of looked at it as like, all right, best foot forward. Um, and like I do feel like I've come a long way in the time that I've been speedrunning, both as a speedrunner and as a performer, and I am really proud of not just like how much money we raised, but like I am have the controversial take as a speedrun event host that the numbers aren't everything. But just like how many people were like, wait, but that was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to not blink, and like that type of like excitement uh was really validating to me, and really like made me feel like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
So, very proud of that one.
Yeah, and that kind of loops back to what you were saying at the start about GDQ being one of your biggest inspirations. I think, if all the Wind Waker runs had just been like sitting quietly playing the game, even if they got a really good time, like that's not as interesting to run. Like you want to hear the banter, you want to, especially any run where the person playing or the commentator is really like explaining the stuff that's going on. I find like super super engaging, and I think I agree with you there that that's like a very important part of that as well as the time. So um and speaking of getting into speedrunning from watching GDQ, or watching anything else. If somebody had seen such a run and was interested in getting into speedrunning, but they had no idea where to start, where would you point them in? What direction would you point them in?
I mean, it definitely depends on what you want to do. Um, I know a lot of people's advice for how to start speedrunning is join the Discord. And I'm here to tell you that, like, yes, but I also understand that that's really hard advice to follow. As I said, that's terrifying. You know, you're suddenly surrounded by, like, people who have done this for so much longer, and everything feels overwhelming and unattainable, and you're in the midst of strangers. And I think especially if it's your first, it's your first speed run, and your first time engaging with a community, that's like the hardest, you know. So it's really like a kind of, you gotta like find a way that works for you to get over that. But like, I think that the best advice that I've ever received is just to open up the game. Just, open it. Do something with it. My advice for people learning Skyward Sword is the first thing that you should do is crash your Wii. Crash your Wii. It's very easy to do. There's many ways to accomplish this, and you learn that crashing your Wii is okay. You just unplug it and plug it back in, and then start right back up again. It's totally fine to crash things. It's totally fine to make mistakes. Just like start it up and see where you are. And for a lot of runs, you can just take a video and kind of monkey see monkey do, try to follow along. And I do think that there is a lot of value to just like, following along. And you definitely, like, people are very ready and willing to help a lot of like newbies with very basic normal new problems, like
Mm-hmm.
my first problem that I asked the Skyward Sword community about, the problem was press A. Just do it. Just press A. um, but like, it's the type of thing that you can't see in a video. And so like plenty of people have had similar, very simple problems. And a lot of people, like, if you can send footage of an issue, or if you can, like, in any way describe the issue, like, people do like solving those problems and are willing to help. But even if you're not ready to receive that kind of like help and attention, like, you can go a long way just opening the game and doing something, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing what you find. Like, see how it goes.
Give it a try. Don't be scared
Yeah.
to take that first step. Um, but yeah, and moving a little more specifically beyond that, just due to the nature of the community. I mean, this is kind of how gaming in general used to be. We've moved a lot past it, but especially speedrunning is typically dominated by a lot of, male masculine individuals. And just kind of seeing that, on the GDQ stage, just in general, did that ever dissuade you or make it more difficult for you to get into the hobby? Um, how did you kind of get through that mental barrier and push back against all the stereotypes of, only males do this thing?
Well, I can say 110% it dissuaded me for 8 years. Or 7 years, however long that was. I don't know the exact dates.
Mm-hmm.
But I can, like, I wasn't very self-aware of it at the time, but I can look back at it now and go, oh, that is exactly what I was doing. That every GDQ, that, and like, it's better now. It's not perfect, but it's better now than it was when I was watching in like the 2010s. Um there would be maybe one or two femme runners.
Hmm.
Like very, very, very slim numbers. And I would basically watch all of those runs. Anything that I could find that was a femme runner. I would watch all those runs even if I had zero interest in the game. Um, and I would a lot of times try to watch that person's stream afterwards and like try to get into it. And the the sheer like way that it works is that, you know, 90% of streams aren't going to be for you. That, like, as I said, I was looking up people who are running like Mario Kart and uh, Superman 64. And like those are like both like excellent runners who are really good at the games that they run and like really were really good early femme representation among speedrunners, but their game, their vibe, whatever it was not for me, and I'd kind of bounce off. And like, I'm glad that I think there are plenty of people who are interested in both of those speedruns and any other femme runner I looked up in that time. And it kind of was what made me disappear for 6 months in between events. And what made me never try it myself was specifically there weren't femme Zelda runners to a large degree. There weren't a lot of femme Zelda runners. There weren't a lot of femme runners for very big name games in general. To look at, and like if you don't vibe with the like one or two people there are, tough,
Yeah.
you know. And I kind of was bought into the idea that like people had told me like, oh, men have better reaction time, so women don't speedrun, you know, they're just not as good at it. And I'm here to tell you that that's wrong. um
Were the men the one, and were they the ones saying that, or?
I don't remember who told me that initially. It was a piece of misinformation I heard when I was like 11 and just really believed.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like it. In addition to there being like a difference in barrier to entry for speedrunning for women and femme individuals or anybody non-mask, I do think that there's also like a difference of starting point in that it wasn't until I started speedrunning that I realized that I'd played video games since I was very little, and no one had ever encouraged me to be good at them. Being good at a video game meant that you wasted too much time, that you used your free time to play more video games when your free time should have been used to do productive things. Um, and I don't think a lot of dudes had that experience as a kid.
Hmm.
Um, our society just has different expectations. And so, like, coming into it, like, you do feel like you're starting with a setback. And at the same time, everything's scarier. Um, Not only are you in a community full of strangers, but you're in a community full of strangers where you're the girl. Um,
Hmm.
and that can be really scary. But I guess the sort of nice part at the end of all of the bleakness is that one, I don't think starting at a setback is a long-term inhibition, or like a inhibitor, you know? It's it's annoying, but then you you catch up. Like everybody has to start from somewhere, and you just keep working on it. You just get better, and if you don't start somewhere, then that process is never going to happen. And also, well, it is very scary to be in a like society of mostly dudes, and like sometimes it does feel like you have a target painted on your back. um it is also true that like 90+% of the people in those communities mean you no harm.
Mm-hmm.
For every person that goes, "Oh, we got a girl," there's gonna be at least nine more people who are normal and friendly and wonderful. And like, I think the speedrunning community has gotten a lot better at kind of standing up for their own. That, like, if I am in a situation I'm uncomfortable with, being like a femme person in a very masculine dominated space, um I know that, like, regardless of gender, I have friends in the speedrunning community who will not stand for letting people be uncomfortable based on something like that. And I really, really value that. And like, it does give me a lot of hope that we are working on a lot of those things, and that the best way to fix a lot of those problems is we need more women in speedrunning. We need
Mm-hmm.
more non-mask people in speedrunning, regardless of gender identity. That, like, having more femme representation on big stages like GDQ would have been made it so much easier for me to get into speedrunning. And then they would have had another femme representation in speedrunning. And so, like, while the problem in itself has a tendency to snowball, I think the solution can too. So if you, uh, like, if whoever's listening to this, if you're a non-mask individual interested in speedrunning, um, do it. Like, come join us in trying to be a part of the solution.
Do
And
it.
like, you know, there are plenty of people here who will make sure that you are comfortable, and will try our best to make this a safe space for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of gender.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and even just like you were saying, we're taking steps, but there's still more steps to go. There was a time when video games in general, like, oh, that's a guy thing. Girls don't do that, and now it's a lot better. But I think there's still kind of a stereotype of like, well, these are guy games and these are girl games. Like, girls will play Animal Crossing, girls will play Mario Kart, but the heavier Zelda speedrunning games, those are still mostly male games, and I think that's still the area where definitely we need to push more there. And I think a lot of what you were saying as well is maybe one of the reasons why um, there's not as many non-mask runners is because people might be interested in getting into it, but they might feel overwhelmed. They might see that there's not a lot of people who are as brave as you, who were able to take the plunge and actually get up to where you are now. So but yeah, do you have any other advice, anything you would say to any non-mask individuals who want to get into speedrunning, want to try it out, and might feel intimidated the way that you felt?
I mean, I think the best advice is just, if you see that there are not femme individuals doing the run that you are most interested in, um that can feel really discouraging. But also, that just might mean that you have to be the first one.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, when I started learning Skyward Sword, I didn't really have anyone else in the community who, like, was Fem. I like there have been two Skyward Sword showcases for Fatales in the past couple of years. One of Skyward Sword HD and mine of Skyward Sword SD, and the HD one was done by a very talented and kind speedrunner named A Variety Pack, and she did not have another Skyward Sword HD speedrunner to be her commentator, who was Fem when she did Skyward Sword HD for Fatales, and that's why the commentator is me. Pretending that I know anything about Skyward Sword HD. It's like, oh, I get to explain this one thing that we also do in SD. And then, a year or two passed, and then we flipped the equation. That when I went to do Skyward Sword SD, I was like, hey, Variety, you want to pretend you know anything about SD? um, because, like, there really weren't a lot of representation before us, and like, okay, that just means we're gonna be the first, and that means that, hey, if you're interested, you can now be the second. And like, it opens the doorway for a lot more people to have somebody be the first, you know.
Mm-hmm. Carve the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, okay. Do you have any specific future goals when it comes to speedrunning? Any specific times you hope to reach? Or do you just kind of like make it up as you go along and see what vibes? Yeah, how do you approach that?
We were talking earlier about like stealing gymnasts' mindset. But one of the things that I think I really took from being a part of his community before learning speedruns on my own was that goal times are fake. A good run is a run that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have seen people tear themselves apart over needing to get that sub insert number here. Um, and like really not have any fun by the end of it. And like, what fun is the achievement if, you th- didn't have fun doing it? And also, like, in actuality, every second is exactly 1 second of time save, like
Mm-hmm.
at getting a sub like 320 in Phantom Hourglass is actually the exact same as getting a sub 320 and 1 second. They are like, there's nothing special about that 1 second. Um, like it's just a second. Goal times are made up. And so I really went into speedrunning with that mindset of like, I never really set specific goals. I want to be happy with my runs, and that's about it. Um, so like at some point I'm going to decide that I'm happy with the run I'm working on, and then I'm gonna move on to something else. In terms of like, things that I would like to accomplish in a more grander scheme, like, Zelda is a lovely garden to be in that, like, as I said, the runs are so diverse and you can really, like, find so much in Zelda speedrunning. And I've found so much that I didn't know I would enjoy, even in just the couple of games that I've run. So, like, I would love to, like, learn more. I would love to get over my fear of being bad at something and just go learn another game. Like, you never know what's gonna click for you and what isn't. And like, with each time that I have learned new games, be they Zelda games or even before I was speedrunning Zelda, I feel like I found more little things that I like in a speedrun and more little things that I don't like in a speedrun, and kind of know how to pick and choose my runs ahead of time a little bit better. So I would love to continue on, find more, have runs I'm happy with, have
Hmm.
runs that feel good.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is it's more about the journey, not the
Yeah,
destination, as they say. If
yeah.
you're not having fun doing the run, what's the point in getting a good goal time?
Speedrunning is for fun.
Hmm. Exactly. Um, and do you see yourself, obviously, coming into the hobby the last few years, do you see yourself continuing to speedrun for the next 5 years, 10 years, beyond that? Do you have any idea what that looks like, or is it one day
Um,
at a time?
it's a little bit one day at a time at this moment. So I graduated college in 2020. Like I graduated from undergrad in 2020. So an interesting world to graduate into. Um and so I really had this kind of unexpected time to sort of evaluate what I want to do now that I'm done with undergrad and like as we speak my current position in life is I'm trying to finish my grad degree. Um but like I think I went into like that weird unexpected state of life um with a lot of preconceptions about these are the types of things that I need to have as a job. This is the type of industry I need to be in. And I think that over time and like getting to take some time like outside of that sort of pressure cooker honor student environment, um and getting to invest so much time and effort in speedrunning, in streaming, in like working events, in all of that, I've really had a lot more time to I think be a lot more open to anything, of like I don't really know where I'm gonna be in a couple years. I have some ideas of some things I'd like to do, but I don't 100% know that I I don't need to be doing this exact thing or that exact thing. I don't need to have what I want to be when I grow up planned out ahead of time,
Hmm.
even when I'm technically a grown up. Um, and so I think regardless of what direction I choose to go, um, after I'm done with my grad degree, after I'm done with this exact state of life, um, like I would like speedrunning to still be a part of it. I would like to still be speedrunning and still be streaming my runs, even if it's not to the degree that I can right now. Even if it's not like multiple times a week and really like working at it and trying to like so hard for improvement. Even if I can't, audition to host every single GDQ event, I want to still be around. I want to still be like learning new runs. I want to still be interacting with runners, and I don't want to be I don't want to be boomer strats. I want to still be open to like meeting and interacting with new people and new runners regardless. And like that is something that I would like to slot into whatever life I decide to go and lead next. Be that speedrunning related or not.
For sure. And can you tell us about, some of the other passions you might have outside of gaming? Other, directions that life might lead you, as you were talking about.
uh I mean
I know.
as
Sorry.
sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I just like you mentioned art earlier. I don't know, like what. Just tell us a bit about you, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I've always been kind of put in the creative person box
Hmm.
very generally. I was, as I said, I went to graphic design high school for 2 years.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure not a graphic designer, but I can sort of do a digital painting now, so that's neat. Exciting. Um, but I'm like do enjoy doing like art things. I was a creative writing undergrad student. I'm getting my master's in creative writing. I really like sort of the very granular type of writing of like I feel like I am best trained to be a copy editor of like how you structure a story, how you structure a character, and things like that. And to that point, I said I'm comp sci nerd brain. Nobody knows how the comp sci nerd part fits into this like creative box the world has put me in, but I do love like I, I think what a lot of those things have in common is that I do love like taking a big problem and like breaking it down into very very bite-sized pieces. I enjoy that coding really makes you show your work and take every step of the process for what it is, and like I think that good writing can do the same. So I like a lot of that. I like a lot of like sort of things that I can treat life as a puzzle, you know.
Right.
um and of course hats.
Of course.
I,
Naturally.
I am a hat, as we all know. I'm secretly a sentient top hat, and the rest is just an automaton.
Hmm. So you could say with all the different things you do that you wear many hats.
Yes, and you can see them all.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. So when you I think I probably know the answer to this, but when you first started becoming a speedrunner, did you ever see yourself being where you are today with the following you have, with the times that you have?
Absolutely not. um, One of the weirdest experiences is I said I watched like every GDQ Wind Waker run, right? And then less than a year later, I was the host for GDQ Wind Waker. That it was like this really wild, like circular experience where this had been my comfort watch for like a good year or two at that point, and suddenly I'm a part of it. Suddenly I'm a part of it for the next person who decides to comfort watch 20 hours of Wind Waker content, you know? um, and that was most certainly something that felt really really surreal. And like it's been a wild process because like so many of those runs that I really enjoyed were by Linkus and by Gymnast, and these are people who now like are my coworkers, are my friends, are people who I have worked with and spoken with personally, and like it has been this wild recontextualization. And I definitely did not think when I started speedrunning at all, or when I started speedrunning Skyward Sword specifically, that we'd we wind up here where like that many people want to stop by to see what I'm up to. Like you do realize that there's more talented people in terms of the run, right? Like we don't have to lie about it, you know. um but like I I think it's been very much a sort of radical acceptance of the unknown. That like every step we get to, it's just okay, we're here now.
One step at a time.
Where are we going next?
Fair enough. Yeah, and now that it's become such a big part of your life, how do you balance streaming and speedrunning with other aspects of your life? You mentioned school, I'm sure family, other work stuff going on. How do you strike that balance?
Um, I mean, it is such a wild thing. I would say that the hardest part of balancing that type of thing is having to explain to somebody that, like, no, I can't just make stream shorter today because then I wouldn't finish a run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't, oh, you streamed for like 6 hours that other day, so can't you only stream for two today? No, if the run is 3 hours, then that's not gonna work. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we can't really like you can't really convince people who just it's not gonna be their thing of like the nuances of something like that, right? Because there are so many people in the world who are just like, but why would you play the same video game twice? um it's like actually 134, but we're not gonna talk about that.
Don't worry about it.
Like, we don't need to look at the numbers. But like I would say that's like the biggest thing that's kind of hard in sort of like balancing other things at the same time is finding ways to explain this weird thing I do to people who have no understanding of it, and like balancing time between like being on stream and off stream, I think definitely comes with its sort of challenges, but I do feel like a bit like lucky in some ways in the fact that I'm very ambiverted. Like, I'm sure my whole stream thinks I'm an extrovert, but like extrovert time can be on stream, can be doing runs, can be talking with chat, can be like feeding off of the energy that chat gives me. And then introvert time can be sitting and video editing for 7 hours. And that's fine. Or sitting and copy editing for 7 hours. Like, it's just like I feel lucky that my brain does sort of operate in two
Mm-hmm.
different gears like that. Um, but it is definitely is something that was like a weird, unexpected learning curve to like try to balance. And I think I'm still working on getting it right, you know?
Mm-hmm. For sure. All right. I think our next question, might be a little redundant. I was just gonna ask how important events like GDQ have been for you. I think we may have covered that, unless you want to say anything more on that. But
I
um,
mean, I think the only thing I would add is that like one of the things that I really like about speedrunning is I said that like people's passion and creativity is like the joy of speedrunning to me, but also like getting to share it with other people
mhm,
is that like even if you know you don't care about the big numbers and the big audiences and all of that, like I've done showcases for a couple thousand people, a couple hundred people, a couple people, like, three,
mhm,
um, like 30, whatever the number is, like, it's still just fun to, like, get to share. I do think there's a lot of value in just that,
mhm,
in addition to all the other things that I'm very grateful to showcases for.
for sure. Yeah. So the speedrunning community and the speedrunning scene, I know that you didn't start yourself until a few years ago, but you've definitely been kind of watching a lot of the runs for a good while. And has there been any big changes that you've noticed in that time since you watched and been involved? And how do you see the speedrunning scene evolving in the coming years?
I think that there's been a lot of changes. Um, I like to joke about when I first started watching GDQ. Whenever there was a Twitch ad break, they would have a monitor that just had a blank Word document open on it, and they would point the camera at a monitor, and some random person who happened to be on tech at the time would walk by and write funny messages on the monitor. And that was our entertainment on the BRB screen. And we live in a different age now. Like, we got so many shiny toys that are so much better than a monitor that says, hey yo, how's ad block going? Like, like, was that funny when I was like, you know, 17 watching GDQ? Absolutely. Am I nostalgic for that? Definitely. Was it better than what we have now? Absolutely not. Um, like, it is definitely a different landscape that has grown and evolved, and like I do have a lot of, you know, affection for the GDQ that I grew up with, but also like, you know, the speedrunning community that I experience now. Um, in some ways, like different parts of me, you know, and I think that like in the last couple years since I've been a part of like speedrunning and GDQ, I hear a lot of people being kind of doom and gloom about the future, that speedrunning is dying, that like we don't raise the money we used to raise, stuff like that. And like I think that it's important to remember that in so much as speedrunning is growing and changing, it's also not growing and changing in a vacuum. The world has grown and changed over the past 10 years and over the past 5 years, you know? Like numbers aren't the same as what they once were. Well, neither is the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Um like you know, people aren't dedicating the same time that they used to. Well, we're not all made of free time from not being able to go to the park, um, or to the movie theater. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, like it's not growing and evolving just in its own little vacuum, and so like I I understand people being very doom and gloom about the future, but I kind of feel like, you know, we're gonna continue to grow and change, and number doesn't always go up, and that doesn't actually have to be a bad thing. That
Mm-hmm.
like you know, we will have another time when things seem to be the best they've ever been. Um, like almost definitely, and like you know, you just gotta keep trying to make things better, and I think things are like inherently there's a lot of things that are really good about the changes that have been made and continue to be made to the speedrunning community. I want more femme runners on mic. I want more I want more like, you know, minority runners on mic of any kind of minority in the speedrunning scene. And so like we can work on those things, and we have worked on those things. So like I think that there's plenty of changes to be made, and like generally we're working in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and I don't think, growth and improvement isn't always going to be like a straight line going up. It's going to go up and down and all that kind of stuff. And, some years the economy is not going to be great, the world's going to suck, and that's going to reflect in speedrunning too. But, if it's going down, it just means it's going to go back up again eventually. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll still be here.
We'll still be here doing our thing as long as people want to keep speedrunning, then it's gonna stay alive, and that's that. Um, Getting close to the final stretch here. Um, so on top of actually doing speedruns yourself, a little bird told me that you're working on a large scale project that involves people from pretty much every different Zelda speedrun community. So, what would you like to tell the world about that, and where can people go and view that once it's all completed?
Well, assuming that it will all get completed, we're getting there. We're working on it. I don't know, when I came up with this idea, I was like, "Whoa, wouldn't it be neat?" And didn't think about the dozens of hours that I have to spend editing a couple of seconds of footage together. Um, but like, you know, eventually we're gonna get there. I've been working on a project that's basically a giant sampler of Zelda speedruns. I'm like, I have runners representing basically every major Zelda game, um, multiple different versions of them, and like get to see a lot of different like strats. And as I said, my favorite thing is people's like creativity in terms of problem solving. And it's been really really fun. um Hopefully it'll be up on my YouTube channel with some urgency. um but it was like a very silly idea to do this project that I came up with, and like I didn't really think of it at the time, but in looking at it now, I feel like kind of really excited about the fact that I feel like I'm abusing my position in exactly what it is. You know, of one of the nice things about being a host for events and like working so many events is that I really feel like I get to meet and support a lot of people from all over speedrunning, but in particular from a lot of Zelda games that I would never run. You know, I might not want to run Twilight Princess, but I've hosted for it twice and I'm going to host for it a third time in 2 weeks. Like, I get to meet so many runners from all of these different facets, and like getting to bring everybody together to work on pieces for one project together has been really really fun. And getting to see like people bring their own brand of excitement to the table and their own brand of creativity, and like really like in editing it, I've been trying to do my best to make sure that the runner's personality shines through in each segment. So in the one segment that I am actually doing in my own project, as like I'm doing Skyward Sword SD, here is me, um will like lean into a lot of the things that you know I am feel like I'm very about on the internet, but getting to sort of like, okay, here is somebody doing A Link Between Worlds. How can I make this a representation of them and their sense of humor and their accomplishments as a runner and their like, you know, sort of style, you know?
Hmm.
Which has been a really fun challenge, and I'm really really excited to share it with everyone. Got some
Nice.
really cool people involved.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Pippi's YouTube channel and Twitch, all that will be linked in the description below. So look forward to that project when it's done. Um, all right. I think we have come to the end of my questions. Unless you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share, things we hadn't covered, things you wanted to ask Zelda Dungeon. I don't know. Any final thoughts before
Not
we
really.
head out? I think
Thank you
we
so much for having me.
Yeah,
uh
thanks for being on. It was awesome. I think I don't know if we set a new record. I think we were a little longer than Jim's interview, but we got sub 2 hours, so
Darn it, I'm
there we
still a
go.
little slower than Jim. uh
Welcome to my
Gotta steal
life.
his strats next time.
You and me both. That's where we're stuck. Great, awesome. Well, yeah, like I said before, if you want to watch Pippi live, go check out her Twitch in the link in the description below. and the YouTube channel as well for the super secret project coming up. And we will see you guys next time on our next Dungeon Runners interview. Have a good one.